So to begin, this is Hyperdocs using what you already know. Once we get started, you're going to recognize what Hyperdocs exactly are. And if you already understand how to put hyperlinks into your presentations or to use them in virtual learning, just sit back because I am starting all the way with creating hyperlinks. So it'll only take a few minutes to kind of explain that, but we are starting with the basics. And again, when we get going, you're like, you know what, I feel pretty comfortable with this. Aside from some really advanced stuff I'm going to show you at the end, feel free to pop out at any time, because I know Hyperdocs is kind of a buzzword, but once you see what it really is, it might be very different for what your expectation is. Okay, so let's get started. Everybody can see the screen. Hyperdocs using what you know. To just do a basic introduction, most of you know how to attach a file to email or select text in order to link a website. Hyperdocs uses all those hyperlinks in order to create learning resources. So it's really like a one-stop spot where kids can have one page and then everything would link from there. So I'm Betsy Wermuth. I teach at the middle school, 5th through 8th grade STEM. And this is my little Bitmoji. That's something that's very popular right now to add into your learning stuff. So to begin, we're going to talk about hyperlinks, and then we're going to actually use those links to connect material to students in docs, slides, and sites. I'm going to show you how to do internal links and how to do external links. Then finally, we're going to use Hyperdocs in order to show digital lessons that will allow students to create authentic digital artifacts. And that's where there's some really tricky things, like there's some simple stuff, but then there's some really complicated stuff that I'd recommend you beg, borrow, and steal so that you don't have to create it from scratch, because that's a little bit more complicated, where you're going in and editing templates and things. Okay, so to begin, again, hyperlinks. Hyperlinks are the little pieces of text that end up a different color with an underline underneath them. So most of you know how to do that for an email, but that is actually what a hyperlink is. And they used to be called hotspots way back when people would create help systems. That would be called a hotspot, but now hotspots have a different meaning. But a hyperlink is actually where it's attached in HTML code to a website or to a email address or to a sound or a graphic or another piece of material like a Google Doc or something like that. And it's actually attached to that. So when your student clicks on it, they're brought to that page. And there's a couple of different things that will link better in one program versus another, or won't link in one program but will in another. So just to explain, first, you can create an internal hyperlink, which is linking within the file. So I don't know if anybody's noticed, but Google Docs just enabled this, where you will get a little, I'll show you over here. You will get this little book on the right-hand side. It looks like this. And if you click on that, it actually brings you to a table of contents, so to speak. So these are all hyperlinks based off of what you set your top section to be. So for instance, this frameworks objective right here, this is heading 1. So the program, the docs program, is using these headings in order to create this list over here. Now, this is a hyperdoc because it does this, that's an internal link, but this also is linked to various, I'm gonna hit control just so that you guys can see, linked to various websites that actually show and open, it's not gonna let me do it, but open the framework for the history and social studies. That's also a hyperlink, but that's an external link because that's actually pulling me into a totally different website. All right, so getting back to our presentation, that's an internal link that Google Doc does automatically, and all you have to do to give that kind of navigation to your students is use the different subtitles and headings. And that's as simple as highlighting, pulling this down when you go to type your text and putting in heading 1. This is a title, this is heading 1, this is heading 2. So you can see how that automatically sets up this whole table of contents. That's an internal link. Google Docs does that for you automatically. Now, if you want to create an internal hyperlink in Slides, which is our presentation app with Google, you would go, this is the PD I'm doing internally, but you would go and highlight or select, I'm going to copy this. Oh, hold on. You guys, if you see, I'm looking at the other screen. That's why I'm like this. Anyway, all right. So if I take this and move it over, and I'm just going to do some fancy stuff here. I'm going to change it to being a yellow color. These are buttons that you can do by adding a shape. So take a shape. This is the nice little button shape right here to use. So if I take this shape and I just change the color and I want to link it to end of class, I'm going to highlight the text, and then I'm going to go up here to this little link button. Kind of, it's supposed to look like, you know, two pieces of chain attached. I'm going to click here, and it's going to ask me, I'm doing an internal link. It's going to ask me to link to slides in this presentation. That's what I want to do, because I want to do an internal link. And if you notice, because of the titles I put on my slides, it tells me that slide 6 is end of class. So then I select the end of class slide, slide 6, and I hit apply. Now, this is a hyperlink, and believe it or not, because I set it up, it will actually let me link when I'm not in presentation view. So I can go into here and then select the slide, right? So then this is going to bring me to the end of class. Now, going back to that first page, if I go into present view, I can click here and it'll bring me there. So it works when you do it this way. It works in both the, I gotta escape that one. It works in both presentation mode and in the regular working mode where you have the menu selection over here, but you have to click and then select as opposed to just click. So that's internal links. So here's the example with how you would do that. You just highlight, select slides in this presentation, and then select it. Again, internal links. We'll get to that external in a minute. So if I go into sites, and I don't know how many of you work with creating your own web pages for your classroom. This is kind of that next level of doing this stuff. But if I go into sites, it's the same process. I'm going to highlight the text. And then when I go in to click, I select this site, and it gives me the actual pages that I'm linking to in my website. So it works the same way. I will tell you that if you're going to create any like web quests, or you want to embed a lot of different types of things, like where if a student clicks on a picture, it will bring them automatically to a Word document that they would be creating themselves. Personally, I find sites to be the easiest place to do it. The usability in terms of what you're able to put onto the page is huge, and everything will take them to that part exactly how you set it up. And you can actually embed, which is another whole thing for hyperlinks, but you can actually embed into the HTML code where it won't take them to another page. So if there's a specific website that you want them to see and a video you want them to see, it won't take them out to YouTube to do it. You can actually set that up. And that we'll talk about later on if you're interested. That's, again, that next level of stuff. I'm trying to keep things simple. So we talked about an internal link. Now, if I want to take that same idea and have them jump, let's say I have a Google Doc and I want them to jump to something outside of the Google Doc, that's an external link. And you do the same exact thing. It's just where you get that link from. So let me show you. So for instance, in this presentation, this is a Google Slides presentation, I have a link to a Google Doc. That's an external link because I'm taking them out of Google Slides and moving them into Google Docs. If you go into this Google Doc, just a regular document, I have a link here that's taking them to that presentation. So taking them out of Docs and into Slides. If I want to do that, it's pretty simple. Let's say that I'm just going to select this word right here, right? I want to make this be a link to a presentation. Well, since I have this Hyperdocs presentation open, I'm going to select what's in the browser, the menu bar, and I'm going to Control-C. If you guys don't know these keystrokes, Control-C copies, Control-V paste, Control-X cuts. So I'm going to go here. And I'm going to Control-C. There's several different ways to do this. And then I'm going to go into here and click that link button again. And here it's going to ask me to paste that link. Now, the other thing that I can do is there's an option over here where you can publish to the web. So under File, Publish to the Web. And this will give me a link, or it'll give me the ability to embed it. And that's going to be all of my slides. So the whole slide deck. But you can do it this way too. You have to also keep in mind though that there's some editing. You would have to change this end here to present if you did this to students, because otherwise they could go in and edit all of this stuff. So that's something you have to think about. Anyway. So I'd go here and I'd paste, and then because I only want them to be able to see it in present mode, I'm going to delete that and click present, apply. Now, if I click this, you see that I'm linked to the Hyperdocs. That's an external link. That's all the directions are right here, and this presentation will end up in the file that goes along with this, or you can just watch it on the recorded version. So again, it's highlighting, it's opening up whatever else you want to link to, copying the address, and then pasting it into that link section. All right, I've just talked really, really fast. And so I'm going to show you a couple of examples that might help beyond the examples I just showed. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat. I don't think anybody's chatted yet. All right, so I got the chat open if you have any questions. So why would you use this? Like, why would you be interested in doing these hyperlinks besides just for convenience or in an email or whatever? There's a couple of different things that you could do for virtual learning that really would make your job a little bit easier. Instead of going into Google Classroom and listing, 27 videos for them to watch, or games to play to study for a test, or reposting all the notes and things, you could actually put in just one document, and in that one document have a link to a video, or an example of how to do a math problem again, or a timeline that you want them to look at. And you could have a link to that, a link to the questions that they were supposed to have answered, and all of it would be just one attachment that you're putting into Google. And then because that's a Word document that you've put all these hyperlinks into, they then you could set it up, you guys know how to do this, I'm sure, set it up so that each student gets a copy of it. Once each student gets a copy of it, then they're handing in their work to you independently and they're not messing with any of the links. That's one reason. I've pulled a couple of templates and I'll show you like a really great resource for templates, but you can do a template in order to create a choice board. And this is where, let's say, I'm doing a lesson on bridges and I want them to choose between beam bridges, arch bridges, and suspension bridges. So they would go in and select that they're going to do suspension bridges, and when they click the suspension bridge, that's going to bring them to an external link that is going to be the web page or the slideshow on suspension bridges with all the tasks that they need to do. That's kind of the idea here. But so you have choice boards where you could set it up like a tic-tac-toe. So here's a template. And again, this is an external link because it's bringing me to a Google Doc. And this is from EdTech Picks. And it's not going to let me move it, but maybe I can enlarge it. Here we go. So what this is showing is that it's a template. So you would take this copy of the template, make your own copy of it. I think it actually requests that you make a copy. And then you would click here for add your own directions. And then here you might put a Khan Academy video to systems of equations. And then here you might put a card, a set of problems for them to work on. And here you might put a third option for them to learn about simplifying equations in order to get to that mx plus b or whatever. So if you did that, these would be different clickable spots for a student to go to. And in a template, what you're going to do is, this isn't anything to hyperlink. You would select this and then insert. So if I wanted to go and insert a link here, I'd have to be in Word. This is just pulling it up because of the way that it's been linked. But I would go in and then, like we showed over here, let's say I have a video that I want to put here, right? So I go to link, and then these are the different things that I've just recently linked to. Let's say that there's a YouTube video. Algebraic basics. I'm going here and I will pause that. And here I'm going to get my share link, copy it. And you guys, if you don't know how to do this, I apologize that I'm going quickly on this, but I'm going to come back here. I'm going to paste it. Because this is a Word document, watch what happens. It's not going to let me paste it into a Word document. I'd have to go to my slides document, which will let me paste in a video. I could link to the video if I wanted to, but to actually include the video, I can go here, or I can highlight it. And this is what some of you probably do, and go to insert video in slides and put this here, and it's going to actually insert that into the presentation. So I hope that that makes sense. All right, so this is a template that's available to create a choice board in Word, and I could also create it in, let me give you the example, it's a little bit easier. I could also create it in slides. So here is the example that gives you some different ideas on what you could do for a choice board. And then one video has already been included, which is actually a video on creating choice boards. So if this was a choice board for one of your subject areas, these are some different ideas that you could put in here with a link. And then you would present this to the students, and the students would be able to click through and find all the resources that you wanted them to. That's one way to use the hyperlinks beyond what I've already explained. And then another option to use Hyperdocs. And this is actually, there is a formal Hyperdocs website that has so many templates and lessons that it's crazy, and it's actually called Hyperdocs. But let me give you an example of a math lesson. So this is a whole slideshow, and it's going to step kids completely through this lesson of going to an amusement park. So in the next slide, there's a video for them to watch. There's questions for them to go to with Answer Garden. And then there's this idea of going back to the original page. Then here, there's a map that has different points on it. And these are different points where there's amusement parks for them to explore. And then they're going to decide which one's their favorite. Once they decide that, they're going to list their favorite one in these text boxes. Then they're going to calculate the distance. Then here, they're going to click on a bottle. If you click on the bottle, it gives you a math problem. They're going to explore and take notes on the various links that are on this page. And then they're going to present their findings by creating a video. So you can see how this is like a whole lesson set up with links to Powtoon, to Toontastic, to Adobe Spark, like to Padlet, to all these different things on the slides that your student would get in Google Classroom. This takes a lot of work. But this one, among lots of others, is already available on Hyperdocs. So once you download it, you are view only. Unless I think you have to pay something like that. But anyway, it gives you some different ideas as to what to use them for. There's another one that was an advisory. Now this one has been set up in a Word document. I want you to really pay attention to like what they did in order to set it up so that students could use it. If you look, they did a little bit of a background kind of thing, so it looks like a magazine page, and that's all Word stuff. Again, you have those internal links that using the headings, but because they didn't use the formal headings that Word sets up, it doesn't actually give kids a table of contents here. I would do it differently. But anyway, so here you have a link to a video playlist. The video playlist is actually linking them right to YouTube. Then they have things to record here. They would participate in a silent discussion, which actually links them right to this document that has students and what they do for choosing on the page. Then here, they have more work to do with responses. So your student is gonna get this as a document link in Google Classroom, and it will make their own copy for them because you'll select that. And then they will have this access to everything. And then they're handing that in, and you can go through page by page and assess it. So that is using Google Docs, which I think for most of you, most teachers, that should be pretty familiar. And if it isn't, please let me know, because that's a totally different thing. But anyway, so then one of the other things that I wanted to show you is that this is actually using Google Slides. Unable. Oh man. It's not going to let me open it. It's a basic template on using 5E's lesson plan in order to use it to actually set up your lesson planning. So it has your hook. Actually, you know what? I wonder, maybe I can get to it from here. No. Anyway, but that gives you a whole, kind of like what you would do if you had the slideshow going in your own classroom. You'd have your opener, you'd have your basic, mini lesson, mini lecture, and then you would have like a group slide, maybe with a timer embedded where they're working on something collaboratively, and then you would have like a bring it all together closure kind of thing, or some independent practice. And that just is a virtual lesson example of using slides with hyperlinks. And if you use slides in your classroom, you do this already. You embed video, you add images, maybe you link to documents. The beauty of this in terms of virtual learning is being able to take these and have the kids, I'm just going to show you another one, have the kids have it all in one little package with all the links that they need. So this, you know, what cultures can you learn? Here's a video, respond here. That's going to bring them to a Google Doc, because you can put a Google Doc, add a Google Doc link into your slides. That's what a hyperlink is, and that's what makes it a Hyperdoc. If you go to the actual Hyperdoc website, which I'm going to do now, there are templates galore. Basic Hyperdoc lesson, thing link, creative writing, 5 E's, explore, explain, apply, workshop model, hero's journey, solutions in electricity, and then you can go to a sample using that. So here's a sample of a creative writing challenge. It starts with a quote. It gives them an opportunity to sign in and read other stories. It then applies it, time to write, reflect, and then their share kind of stuff with forms. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of see and explore different ways to incorporate what you already know how to do with links into other templates. And that is Hyperdoc. All right, so let me just, last thing I want to show you guys, and then I'll take questions and let you guys go and explore Hyperdocs. So this is a super advanced thing, and it is really neat, but it's a little bit more complicated, but it allows you a lot of flexibility in terms of what you might encourage kids to do. It also gives you an opportunity to go and see different ways to organize material for kids. So these are free templates, and the templates are digital notebooks. So I'm going to use this one. This is Slides Mania. If you haven't explored this site, oh man, there are so many new slides templates here that just add a little bit to your presentations. The one that I'm using is actually from this too. Okay, so we're going to take the portrait mode. Is that my, hold on. There's a lot of ads on this one because it's free. Yeah, that's the one I want. Sorry if I'm making anybody nauseous. So what happens is you download it, you open it, and then you say you want to use the template. So then it opens it into your Google Slides. And you'll see over here, you have all these different pages to use. Here's one that's graph paper. Here's one that's regular notebook paper. Here's one that's showing highlights that you can put on your titles. And then this is saying, you know, Slides Mania. If you want to add a page, here's all the different pages that you can add. I got that by clicking over here. But then if you watch, this one's a simpler one. Some of the templates that you'll look at actually have tabs on them. And the tabs then are hyperlinked for different pages within the template itself. So for instance, let me go back. And where did it go? This one. This one, when I click any one of these tabs, it brings me to that section. So like if I click the math section, it brings me to a math section. That might be helpful, or it might be way more than you want to do. But it is a way to kind of organize your, because these are all editable, it is a way to kind of organize the material that you're giving a student. And it is all in Google Slides. And that's all done with links. There's in the presentation that will be available to you, there's these two very good videos. They're like 30 minutes each. This one shows you activities and how to set up a digital interactive notebook, which is all done with hyperlinks. This one gives you a lot of different options on how to create drag and drop exercises for kids as far as for independent practice. Again, I gave you a lot of information in about 20 minutes. So if you have any questions, the idea of this was to kind of throw it all at you and then open it up for discussions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute and let me know what you're thinking. If this all is overwhelming, don't worry about it. If you feel like, oh, wow, I didn't know you could do that, great. That's the whole goal here. It's all just done with links. So any questions? Is everybody just eating lunch?
I'm trying to unmute. Betsy, is this slideshow the directions in the Google Drive?
So the directions, the actual where it says notes, that this hasn't been linked to that yet, but it will be linked to that. So okay. Yes, I will put the slideshow right in there. That's not a problem. Heidi, that answers your question too. I'm assuming that most of you knew how to link pretty simply, but getting into some of this more advanced stuff, there's so much all over YouTube with teacher tutorials. And if you want to take a really easy route, Teachers Pay Teachers has tons of these on there, but you're going to pay, they're more like in that $7, $10 range because it takes a lot of time to do it. So Shannon asked where we would find it in the drive. I think that it's going to actually be linked to the boot camp, to the edCamp. There's that grid that you guys got, and I think it'll be there. And I imagine Anthony will probably put them all together. Also, for those of you at the middle school, when we do our well-structured lessons training, these 2 videos will be linked in that website. So you'll have access to those 2. I will tell you that Jessica Wilding is the one who did this one. And this one is something primary, but she's really good too. But those are the 2 channels that I subscribe to for those. And there's another person, New Ed Tech Classroom. And he actually, Shannon, he's a social studies or a humanities teacher, 6th grade humanities teacher in California. And some of the stuff that he's doing is just amazing. But if you haven't expanded your PLC, your teacher network to YouTube tutorials, I'd suggest just to look at them and kind of get that idea of taking stuff to the next level is pretty cool. Anything else? Just to backtrack, Slides Mania is really great for different templates for the slides, and a lot of different interesting clip art, and you can use them. I leave the slide in at the end that kind of just says who created it, because if they spent the time doing it, I want to give them some credit. I did change a font, so here where it says fonts used, I changed this to reflect that. Here's a blank page on that template, just to let you know. And this Slides Mania is set up with an education. You can Venmo them for coffee. You can buy me coffee, do that for them if you really like something that they have. They have notebook style right here, which gives you all sorts of different things. This one's amazing with all these tabs. If anybody wants to create a digital teacher planner, this one has different sections as well. And just when you look at them, you can see some of the different things that people have done. This particular one has the Hyperdoc, it has it set up for you to add audio or add a video. It kind of gives you an idea of how to lay it out on the different pages. And again, each one of these tabs would be a hyperlink. Each video would be inserted and the actual audio files and images and stuff. And it really walks you through. Most of them have instructions to go along with it if you would choose to do something like that. I personally am trying to get at least 1 unit per grade level into this format. I think I also am going to try to do like my subplans because it links so easily and I could move pages. It's complicated when you add to it after you've given it to a student. So if you are at the level where you feel like you could do something like these notebooks, I would just suggest that you do it as a give it to them and then collect the whole thing back at some point. Or give it to them, have them work so far in it, and then go back to that same assignment and continue working on it. Like if it was a sub type of situation, like go as far as you went, because it's basically an online workbook. Go as far as you got, and then you would grade to that point. And then the next day that you're out, start where you've ended and go through. So there are a lot of potential for this. Just to do your whole curriculum this way would be insane. Anybody else?
Yeah, Betsy, it's Tracy. I apologize if you already said this, but did you record this session? Because I'm going to need to watch some of it over again.
Yes, I did record it.
Okay.
There's so much information that, and you can take it in so many different directions. But realistically, I did record it because I think that there's so much potential for ways to do this and to add that element of independent practice into our actual instruction doing this virtually, so that you can create these really great documents that you're sharing with your students and telling them, okay, so I've given you your mini lesson. Now you're going to go off with this independent that already has all these nice links for them. And that's what you're handing in. So if they choose to spend that 20 minutes, fiddling around or whatever, they still have the assignments exactly what they need for resources on that one page. Right. So I do think that that's the beauty of this is being able to link that way. And if you have any questions about sharing, yes, so I did record it and I will share it with you. One thing that I just want to show you guys is if you go in, oh, that's a bad example. If you go into this slide, like if you use this address to present to publish to the web, like you want to get a link to put into your Google Classroom for students to use this, you want them each to have their own copy. But what you're going to do is if you click publish, right here at the end, you're going to have to delete, and this is all over YouTube. You delete to here, and you set up this to be present only, or when you go into your Google Classroom, you make sure that each student has their own copy. Because if they don't have their own copy, everybody's working on the same one. So you really need to make sure that when you create these, this is, okay, so this is gonna overwhelm some of you, I apologize. But if you go into slide, edit master, I can create anything in these pages. I can go to this one right here, and I could put graph paper on here with a systems of equation, Tracy, right? Like I could put slope on there or 2 lines, and I want them to work on that. I then could select that. So I would put that in here. I'd create this new page. And then I go over here, and when I click here, I can select that problem. And they wouldn't be able to touch it, move it, do anything to it. They would be able to type on top of it because I might give them a text box that they can actually edit. But whatever it is on here, like see, this is a text box that they can edit, but they can't touch or move any of these lines. That's this notebook paper. You can actually do that by editing the master and have your problem be behind here. Does that make sense?
It does.
And so then when you share it out to a kid, they're giving this back to you, but they've been able to write all over it, but they haven't been able to mess with that that problem for the other students.
Okay, thank you.
That's next level. If you have questions on that, let me know. But editing the master gives you all sorts of pluses. You can change the text for each, you know, title, body text, all that stuff to make it kind of your own. Any other questions? Doug, you unmuted. Do you have a question?
No, no, thank you. You answered it.
Okay. So like, for instance, what I was just telling Tracy, like, see, I can't select any of this. This is in the template. So if I go to slide, edit master, and I go to this page, I now could select that green and change, or these black parts, and change those if I wanted to. The one thing I don't think they let you edit, well, no, I guess I could even get rid of the little, I wouldn't do that though, but that's the people who created this. Make sense? But this is where you can get really creative by making your own pages that then the kids can't mess with, and then add the links on here before it goes to the other parts. But keep in mind, that means that you'd have to select just that individual one to have that link be there that they can't mess with. The other option is to just have them only receive it in present view.
Betsy, can the digital notebook there, can that be transferable between different lessons?
So could
Basically,
you add pages to it as they have another lesson?
yeah, could I use it as a sketchbook if I wanted to?
You could, and they could import images into it, and then you could have access to it. If you want to do that, what I would suggest is that you give them a bunch of blank pages, right? Or like with frames on them or whatever, and teach them how to select them here as pages, and then make sure that each kid, once you deliver it the first time, they share it with you. So that then when they're handing it in, they're either taking a, you know, sharing just one slide with you, which they can do, or you're going into their file and sharing it because it's shared with you, and you would see that in your drive.
Yeah. So
but you could totally do that.
I could theoretically look at several pages of their process work.
Yep.
And then they have the power to add pages beyond that.
Yeah, they would come over here and select whatever it is. If they wanted to do another blank page, or they wanted to, you know, have a grid, or they wanted to take notes, they could select whatever it is that you've put here.
So would it benefit, and if you want to answer these off this meeting with everybody, that's fine. Would there be like a separate Google slide for each kid just for the digital notebook, in essence? A
separate Google slide deck. So in a separate file. And that would be done in Google Classroom, because if you shared this with them, it would make their own copy, and you would have them, well, it actually names it for them too, where it puts their own name on it. And then they could share that back, upload it back into Google Classroom to share it with you if they wanted to too.
Yeah, just that might be a pretty easy way to kind of get some of that process work to and from each other.
The other thing too that you can do, just so that goes back to everybody, is once you go in here and create this, there's nothing that says that, you know, each notebook that you give them is for, you know, these 2 weeks, and then here's these 2 weeks, because it would still save in their folders. They'd still have access to it, and you'd still have access to it, but then you wouldn't have to go back and forth with the notebooks. They could just, you know, in 2 weeks you're handing in this notebook, and then give them another one. And that might be just a little bit easier. But this again is Slides Mania. And if you want any sort of usability on this, Jessica Wilding, W-I-L-D-I-N-G, is a real guru on it. And she was a TikTok teacher that I connected, you know, with. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff on there that's really good stuff. So.
And there she is, Jessica Wilding. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions, or you guys, I think we were supposed to finish at 1:35. So I still have like 20 minutes if you have questions or how you might use it in your classroom, or if you want me to go back to some of the simpler strategies, we can do that too.
because I just got out of
I'm all set right now, Betsy. I have to think about it before I come up with some.
It's a lot of information
Yeah.
and how you would use it in your classroom. There's a lot of different stuff to think about. For those of you, I see there's a lot of instructional assistants on the attendance list. One of the things that I think is big for you guys to understand is just when a kid is in these files, if they can't touch it, like they could move me around, but if they can't touch it, that's set up in the template. So anything that the teacher wants them to be able to move or go into is what they can access. So if there's a hyperlink, it's going to be underlined and they should click on it and move and try to see what that is. And then this new feature that our Google Docs has done is really great for giving them the ability to move around in a bigger, like if it's a reading or something along those lines, for them to click here and be able to see what all the different pieces and parts are is kind of big. So just a couple little heads up on that as far as usability goes. Anything else?
I think I just have to play with it for a while.
And you know what? Yeah, that's really what it all comes down to. The usability. I mean, I years and years and years ago used to create help systems so that like when you clicked the help, it showed up as, you know, active links. And we used to have to hand code the HTML for each one of these things. So now that it's what they call WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, it really makes a difference in terms of usability, especially for students. And honestly, like there's so many different things to think about. And if you have a website, you can link to it. But often with Google Docs, linking to another document or something like that gets just a little bit trickier. And you just have to remember to go into this address bar and copy that with the Control-C, because you'll notice if I take this and Control-C it, and then I go back into my document and I Control-paste it, I got a whole lot more stuff. I got the HTTP and a number of other pieces of information there. And then here's that view thing right here. That's what you need to go all the way back to if you want them to get a copy. If you're outside of Google Classroom when you're issuing them. But there's instructions on that, again, on YouTube, and in Google Classroom actually has those instructions there as well. So it's really just a matter of knowing what you're searching for. Anything else? Okay, well, I'm gonna stay on. I'll go ahead and stop the recording and then